My little sister Sarah off herself after being bullied. My parents turned gray overnight. Those three little shits just smirked and said, "We're minors, the law can't touch us. What are you gonna do about it?" I smirked right back, "I'm gonna make you wish you were never born." I was in class when my mom called. She didn't say anything for a good long while. Just choked back sobs. Something felt wrong. My heart started pounding in my chest. Finally she gathered herself enough to wail into the phone, "Danny, something happened to Sarah." I bailed on class, didn't even grab my stuff. Just booked it to the nearest bus station. "Mom, I'm coming home. Don't freak out, just tell me what happened." She was gasping for air between sobs. Repeating over and over, "Your sister. She got beat up." I tried calling Sarah. But no answer. Then my dad. Same thing, my hands were shaking so bad. I could barely hold my phone. I googled Sarah's school and her name. Found a video with a few thousand views. A scrawny girl was lying on the ground, shielding her head. 3 girls were circling her, taking turns kicking her in the face. After about 30 seconds one of them said, "Let's shave this little bitch's head. See if she's so hot." Then she giggled, squatted down and grabbed a fistful of Sarah's hair. Snip, snip, snip. The girl on the ground curled up in a ball, trying to disappear. The bullies got even more fired up. "Oh, you wanna hide, huh?" They were working together like they'd rehearsed it. One sat on the girl's back, pinning her arms. Another one was snapping pictures. And the third was slapping her smack. Smack, smack. When I finally saw the girl's face under the mess of hair, it was Sarah. The slapper got tired and nodded to the one taking pictures. Then I heard an excited voice from behind the camera. My turn, my turn." She pulled out a Sharpie and drew a dick on Sarah's swollen face. Sarah couldn't get away and let out these desperate screams. "Why'd you do that?" one of the girls whined. Her face was all clear now. "How's she gonna be a skank?" She hauled Sarah up and dusted her off. Seemed like she was actually gonna let her go. Sarah just stood there clutching her shirt, lost. Next thing you know, she kicked Sarah in the back as hard as she could. Sarah went sprawling and blood started spreading on the ground. Then they jumped on her, ripping her school uniform. The comments blew up instantly. But just as quick the video was gone. "This video has been taken down." And then the post disappeared too. "You okay?" The taxi driver glanced at me in the rearview mirror. "You look kind of sick." We were driving into a tunnel. The car window showed my red eyes and the veins popping out on my forehead. My front yard was swarming with nosy neighbors. Pushed my way through and saw my parents sitting on the couch. Cops in the middle. Then some guy in a suit and 3 other middle-aged dudes. Probably the principal and their parents. 3 little shits were in the corner. 2 of them were looking down. But the one in the middle was sitting on our old milk crate, filing her nails. When she saw me, she nudged the others, pointed at me, said something, and they all started laughing. "I'm gonna kill you." I grabbed the nearest thing, a glass vase, and charged. But they grabbed me right away. One of the parents even snatched the vase from me. "Let me go or I'll kill you." All the shit in the middle hid behind her dad. Raining at me, a cop came over and patted me on the back. "Hey, calm down. We're trying to figure out how to settle things here. Don't make it worse." I shook off the parents' hands. "All right. How are you gonna settle it?" The mood in the room shifted. They all looked at each other, exchanging glances. They were definitely planning some BS. The principal pulled me aside, put an arm around my shoulder. "You're Sarah's brother, right? Look, the school takes this very seriously. We've given Wendy and the others a stern talking to. They promised it won't happen again. Seeing as it's their first offense, we're hoping you'll." "What are you saying?" I shoved him away. "You want us to just let it go?" Caught off guard, the principal looked a little flustered. "Look, kid, we've already taken down all the social media posts. You know that kind of stuff going around ain't good for Sarah. She's a girl after all." So I laughed, but there was no humor in it. "So should we get on our knees and thank you for your generosity? Took it down for Sarah or for these little monsters?" "Kid, you gotta look at the bigger picture. Can't all I know is my sister got hurt." That's when one of the parents scoffed. "Maybe you should ask yourself why it was just your sister out of the whole class who got picked on. I bet she did something to deserve it. Takes 2 to tango, you know." Punched him in the face and he started bleeding. "What the hell, man? I'm gonna kill you." I was seeing red. I was about to beat him senseless. But the cops grabbed me. "Easy, kid. You hurt him, you'll be paying his medical bills." My mom pulled me back too. I looked at her face covered in tears. And my heart sank. "Officer, we're pressing charges. How many years are they?" Looking at the cop side. "I understand how you feel. But realistically, even if we go by the book, probably get a few days in juvie and a couple thousand in fines. They're minors." "A few days? A few $1,000s?" My brain exploded. I turned and saw the little shit smirking, hearing they might get juvie time. The parents got worried about a record and started signaling their kids. 3 of them rushed up to me, bowing and apologizing. Wendy grabbed my hand. "I'm sorry, we know we messed up. It won't happen again." I felt something hard in her palm and looked down. She'd slipped me a bloody hair clip. The one I gave Sarah, it had a few strands of hair stuck to it. Probably ripped right out of Sarah's head. Fuck, I was about to slap her. But her dad pulled her behind him. I'm sorry, Danny. She was crying, crocodile tears hit me. Do whatever you want, she was crying. But her right hand was giving me the finger. I'm gonna kill you, calm down. The cop stepped between us again. The family's upset, we'll talk about this later. You guys gotta go. The house was dead silent. It was almost 10 and Sarah still wouldn't come out. We were sitting outside her bedroom door. Nobody willing to leave. Mom. Dad, go to bed. I'll watch over her, I said. How can I sleep with Sarah like this? My dad asked. Mom patted his back and leaned on his shoulder. Her eyes all red and swollen. Her tears long gone. Those bastards might come back tomorrow. You need to rest, I said. He's right, Mom said. Listen to Danny, she'll be safe with him. Dad sighed heavily and slowly walked away. He used to work construction and hurt his back lifting sandbags. Got worse as he got older. Now all he can do is slap on a pain patch. Watching his hunched over figure, my throat tightened. I was so angry. After my parents turned off the lights, I knocked on the door twice long, then twice short. That was our code. I used to sneak her out for late night snacks. Slipper candy when Mom and Dad weren't looking. We go have fun, but this time, I didn't get to see Sarah's smiling face. Sarah. I whispered. Can I come in? I had a key to her room. Still nothing. I had a bad feeling. I grabbed the key and unlocked the door. The smell of blood hit me like a punch in the gut. The sheets were soaked in blood. Sarah was lying there, half her body covered in it. Her wrists had these deep, jagged cuts. Sarah. I picked her up and ran out. Mom, Dad. Sarah tried to kill herself. The hospital, 1 in the morning. I sat on a cold chair staring at the operating room doors. Every time a nurse came in or out, I jumped. I'm 12 years older than Sarah. I was in 6th grade when Mom had her. When she was pregnant, my uncle teased me saying, "You're getting a sister, your mom and dad won't love you anymore." So I didn't like her at first. Until one day after school, I saw Mom being discharged with a small baby in her arms. She was sucking her thumb, covered in a fresh baby smell. My mom looked at her with an endless amount of love. I was jealous. Then Sarah woke up, looked at me with her big eyes, and laughed. Mom said she was crying up a storm at the hospital, but she laughed at the sight of her brother. She likes her brother. That's when I realized she wasn't so bad. When she turned 3 or 4, she would follow me, waiting for me at the door to give me a hug. When I got home, when I did my homework, she would watch, putting her head on the table. Mom would ask Danny, "Do you want some fruit?" I would shake my head. Then Sarah would say, "Brother doesn't want any." "Want some milk?" I would nod. Then Sarah would run and say, "My brother does." Mom would laugh. Sarah is her brother's sidekick. She would carefully put the milk on the table and ask, "Brother, what is a sidekick?" "Someone who follows people." She would proudly say, "Then I'm my brother's sidekick." Later, when I was a little older, I wanted to drop out of school to help with Sarah's tuition. When I skipped school, my dad caught me, and I was forced to kneel in the living room as punishment. Sarah stood in front of me saying, "Don't hit my brother." My dad threw the belt down, started crying, and said he couldn't afford a good life for us. That was the first time I saw him cry. Later, Sarah and I promised to study and get a good job. Sarah held out her pinky promise. "We can't change our minds," was our agreement. We could never change anything after we made a pinky promise. Then I went to college and Sarah was in middle school. When I came home, she would barely talk. I thought she was going through puberty. I wish I would have known. Why didn't I see it? The doctor finally came out. My mind raced, thinking of all the different possibilities. I stared at him, afraid he would give me bad news. My mom tried to stand, but she couldn't. Sarah is out of danger. She lost a lot of blood and is unconscious. Someone needs to stay with her. He paused a few more millimeters and she would have cut an artery. The kid has some problems. You need to pay attention to her. I breathed a sigh of relief and nodded. They wheeled Sarah out. She looked so thin, her face covered in cuts and bruises. Her hair was uneven, showing parts of her head. I got angry again. My throat burned. I stayed with her until morning. When I went to get breakfast for my parents, I saw the principal on the phone. I heard the kid tried to kill herself. "What a mess," he said. "The boss is coming to check things out soon." Why did this have to happen now? Keep those reporters away. This family isn't important to be easy to cover it up. I threw my soup at him, he yelled, turning red, and I saw my mom yelling on the second floor. Wendy's dad was here with his friends. "You want money? Here's 1,000. He said. My mom yelled, "How can you say that? My daughter is in the hospital. You don't want the money? Great." He laughed. My dad yelled, "You're all animals." One of the friends pushed my dad down. "Don't talk to me like that." I kicked him. "Don't touch my dad again." Then I got hit in the back. The men were trying to hurt me. The hospital was a mess and the nurses pulled us apart. I could barely breathe. I wanted to tear them apart. Wendy's dad straightened out his shirt. "My daughter is smart. Yours is a nobody. I can do whatever I want. You can't do anything to me. If I get arrested, I can get rid of the record. You can forget about getting a single cent from me." She should have died. The principal looked at us, turned around and left. Sarah woke up. She wiped my face where I was bleeding. Brother, she said. Am I a burden? I held her hand. You're never a burden, brother. Don't fight. I don't need to go to school, Sarah. If the world lets the bad guys win, it's pushing good people off a cliff. I said I'll get justice for you. But brother, that you trust me. Sarah looked at me and nodded. Pinky, promise we can't change our minds. Later that night when Sarah fell asleep, I called my roommate Mark. He's a rich guy, he can help me. What? I'm serious, can I borrow some money? Sure, how much? 30,000. What? He shouted, did you get scammed? I need it for something, I'll pay you back. It's not about the money. He paused. Give me your address, I told him, and he hung up. I froze. Mark had to help me. I never thought he would say no. Then the next morning Mark showed up in a suit and sunglasses. What happened to you? Did you get beat up? Stared. Did you mess around with someone's wife? He never has anything nice to say. I told him what happened. He got angry. You should have called me. I would have killed them. I waved my hand. Can I get the money? It's in the car. Mark took me over and the car door opened. Two big guys were sitting in there. I knew something was wrong. So I called these guys from my dad's company. Look at these muscles, Mark said. Good enough, perfect. Are those the? Mark pointed to the two girls shopping. I said they were and he nodded. Let's do this. Big guys went up to them. We're giving away free phones. If you have a student ID you can get an iPhone for $99. When they looked hesitant, he added, we have a raffle going on inside. You can win a prize. Their eyes lit up and they followed him. After going inside, the front door slammed shut. The heavy steel door slammed shut, echoing like a gunshot in the dimly lit warehouse space. The neon free phones sign outside was nothing but a cheap prop we'd bought an hour ago. Inside there were no phones, just concrete dust, a single flickering fluorescent bulb, and two folding chairs. The two girls, Chloe and Mia, Wendy's little sidekicks, stopped dead in their tracks. The smiles melted off their faces. Wait, where's the raffle? Chloe asked, her voice hitching. The two big guys, Marcus and Dave, didn't say a word. They just crossed their massive arms, blocking the only exit. I stepped out of the shadows, the gravel crunching under my boots. I didn't rush. I wanted them to feel the seconds dragging out. I wanted them to feel a fraction of the helplessness Sarah felt when she was curled up on that asphalt. Hey, I said, my voice barely above a whisper, but it cut through the silence like a razor. Mia's eyes went wide. She recognized me immediately. You're that bitch's brother. Wrong answer, I said. Marcus took a step forward, his boot coming down hard. The girls flinched, instinctively backing up until their shoulders hit the cold brick wall. What do you want? Chloe squeaked, her hands trembling. We're minors. You touch us, you're going to jail. Oh, I'm not going to touch you, I said, pulling up one of the folding chairs and sitting backwards on it, resting my arms on the backrest. I stared dead into her eyes. But you see Dave and Marcus here? They aren't in the system. They aren't from around here. And they don't give a shit how old you are. Mark walked in from a side door, tossing a heavy canvas duffel bag onto the concrete. It landed with a loud metallic clank. Empty your pockets, Mark demanded, leaning against a rusted support beam. Phones. Now. No, Mia shouted, trying to sound tough. My dad is a lawyer, Hill. Dave moved. He didn't hit her. He just grabbed the strap of her designer purse, ripped it out of her hands with terrifying ease, and dumped the contents on the floor. Lip gloss, a vape, and a pink-cased iPhone clattered onto the concrete. Chloe, sobbing now, pulled hers out and dropped it. Unlock them, I said. We don't have to do shit. Mia cried, tears streaking her heavy makeup. I stood up, walked over to the canvas bag, and unzipped it. I pulled out a pair of industrial electric hair clippers. I plugged them into a nearby extension cord and flicked the switch. Easy. The sound filled the room. The two girls froze, their eyes locked on the vibrating metal blades. I remember a video, I said, walking slowly toward them, the clippers humming in my hand. A video of my little sister crying, begging, and someone saying, let's shave this little bitch's head. Was that you, Mia? Or was it you, Chloe? It was Wendy. Chloe screamed, covering her head with both hands. It was Wendy's idea. We just helped hold her down. Please don't. Please. Bullies are all the same. They act like predators when they're in a pack, hunting someone weaker. But the second you corner them, the second the teeth are bared at them, they turn into pathetic, trembling cowards. Unlock the phones, I repeated, turning off the clippers. They scrambled to the floor with shaking fingers, typing in their passcodes. I picked up the phones and handed them to Mark. Start digging, I told him. Mark was a tech guy. He connected their phones to a laptop he had set up on a crate. The girls watched in absolute terror as their digital lives were cracked open. Oh man, you guys are stupid, Mark muttered after a few minutes, his screen illuminating his disgusted face. Danny, you're gonna want to see this. I walked over. Mark clicked on a hidden folder in Mia's photo app. There it was. The unedited, full-length video of what they did to Sarah. But that wasn't all. There were dozens of photos. Them mocking her. A group chat titled The Untouchables. I read the texts. Wendy. El Mayo, did you see the freak's brother? Broke-ass loser. Mia, he almost cried. My dad gave the school $10K to shut it down. Chloe. Wait, what if she actually dies, lol. Wendy, good riddance. Less trash in the world. Next week we find a new target. My vision blurred with red. The veins in my neck throbbed so hard it felt like my skin was going to rip. I wanted to kill them. I wanted to take the crowbar sitting in the corner and smash everything in the room. But I remembered Sarah's face. Pinky promise. She needed me outside of a prison cell. Press record. I told Mark. Mark set up a tripod with a high-def camera, pointing it right at the two sobbing girls. Here are the rules, I said, crouching down so I was at eye level with them. You're going to look into that camera. You're going to detail exactly what you did to Sarah. You're going to explain how Wendy orchestrated it. You're going to talk about the group chat. And you are going to explain how Wendy's dad paid off the principal. Wendy will kill us, Mia whispered, terrified. Wendy isn't standing in front of you. I said, my voice ice cold. I am. And if you lie, or leave a single detail out, I will post your group chat logs to every university you apply to. I will send them to your parents' employers. I will ruin your lives so completely that you'll have to change your names and move to another country. Speak. For the next 20 minutes, the warehouse was filled with nothing but the sound of their shaky voices confessing to every sick, twisted thing they had done. They threw Wendy under the bus without a second thought. They admitted to the extortion, the physical assault, the cyberbullying. When it was over, I took the memory card out of the camera and slipped it into my pocket. You can go, I said. They didn't wait to be told twice. They scrambled past Marcus and Dave, running out into the street like rats fleeing a sinking ship. Phase 1, Mark said, packing up his laptop. What's next? Next, I said, feeling the jagged edge of the hair clip in my pocket. The one Wendy had slipped into my hand. We go back to school. The local school board was holding its quarterly open meeting in the district auditorium. It was a big deal. The superintendent was there, along with the mayor and several key donors. The principal, Mr. Harrison, was at the podium, sweating under the stage lights, giving a pompous speech about student safety and zero tolerance for bullying. Mark and I walked through the double doors at the back of the auditorium. Dave and Marcus flanked us. Harrison paused his speech, squinting through the lights at us. Excuse me, this is a closed session for board members and invited parents only. I didn't stop walking. We marched right down the center aisle. Security. Harrison barked into the microphone. A rent-a-cop stepped forward, but Marcus just looked at him. And the guy wisely decided he didn't get paid enough to intervene. I'm a parent's representative, I said loudly, my voice carrying off the acoustics of the hall. I'm representing my sister, Sarah, a student at your school. A student who is currently lying in a hospital bed with slashed wrists because of your zero-tolerance policy. Murmurs erupted across the crowd. The superintendent frowned, leaning forward in his leather chair. Young man, what is the meaning of this? The meaning is that this man, I pointed directly at Harrison, is a corrupt, money-hungry coward who covers up violent assaults on minors. Harrison's face drained of color. Get him out of here. He's deranged. Before anyone could move, Mark bypassed the soundboard tech, who Dave politely lifted out of his chair, and plugged his phone directly into the auditorium's projector system. The massive screen behind Harrison flickered to life. It didn't show the assault video. I wouldn't put Sarah's humiliation on a big screen for strangers. Instead, it showed the screenshots of the group chat. Massive, 20-foot-tall letters detailing how Mr. Vance, Wendy's dad, paid the school $10,000 to sweep the assault under the rug. Gasps echoed through the room. Then the video of Chloe and Mia's confession played. The audio boomed through the auditorium speakers. They detailed how the principal called them into his office, told them to delete the video, and assured them that as long as Mr. Vance's check cleared, nothing would happen to them. Harrison was hyperventilating. He lunged at the projector cable, but I caught him by the collar of his cheap suit and threw him back onto the stage. You told me it was a first offense, I yelled, the anger boiling over. You told me to look at the bigger picture. Is this the picture you were talking about? The superintendent stood up, his face purple with rage. Harrison, is this true? It's a deepfake. It's AI. He's lying. Harrison stammered, literal spit flying from his lips. I've already forwarded the original files, with metadata and timestamped bank transfer receipts we pulled from the girls' phones, to the local police department and the State Board of Education. Mark said coolly into the microphone. Enjoy prison, Harrison. The room erupted into absolute chaos. Parents were screaming. Board members were shouting for the police. I looked at Harrison, who had collapsed onto his knees on the stage, grabbing his thinning hair. His career was over. His life was over. I turned my back on him and walked out. 2 down. 2 to go. We sat in Mark's car, the engine idling in the parking lot. You okay, man? Mark asked, handing me a bottle of water. I won't be okay until Wendy and her dad are completely destroyed, I said, taking a sip. The water tasted like ash. Well, about the dad, Mark grinned, pulling out a tablet. I made a phone call to my old man last night. Told him everything. My dad's a hard ass, but he hates bullies. Turns out, Vance's logistics company relies entirely on 3 major contracts to stay afloat. 2 of those are with my dad's real estate development firm. I looked at him, realizing the sheer weight of what he was saying. My dad made some calls, Mark continued. Vance has been cutting corners, using substandard materials, and bribing inspectors. My dad didn't just pull his contracts, he blew the whistle to the IRS and the Commercial Zoning Board. As of 9 a.m. this morning, Vance's company accounts are frozen. The bank is calling in his loans. He's underwater by about $4 million. He's broke. I asked, a slow, dark satisfaction spreading in my chest. Worse than broke, Mark said. He's in debt. Deep. And the feds are going to be knocking on his door by the end of the week. Let's go see him, I said. The Vance estate was a sprawling mansion behind a gated community. But when we pulled up, the gates were wide open. 2 moving trucks were parked on the lawn, and men in uniforms were hauling out flat-screen TVs, antique vases, and expensive furniture. Repo men move fast when a millionaire suddenly defaults. We walked right through the open mahogany front doors. The living room was a disaster. Papers were strewn everywhere. Mr. Vance was sitting on a remaining leather couch, his tie undone, a half-empty bottle of scotch in his hand. He looked like he had aged 20 years in 24 hours. His arrogant, polished veneer was completely shattered. Wendy was sitting on the stairs, clutching a designer bag, looking panicked and lost. When she saw me, she shrieked. Dad. That's him. That's the freak. Mr. Vance looked up, his bloodshot eyes struggling to focus on me. You. He slurred, pointing a shaking finger. You did this. You and that rich brat's father. You ruined me. I didn't force you to bribe a school principal, I said, walking slowly into the center of the room. I didn't force you to raise a monster. You ruined yourself. Vance suddenly lunged, throwing his glass at my head. I ducked, the glass shattering against the wall. Before he could take another step, Marcus was there. He didn't hit him. He just planted a massive hand on Vance's chest and shoved him hard back onto the couch. Assaulting a guest. Marked scared. Add it to the charges. What do you want? Vance sobbed, his face buried in his hands. You took my money. You took my business. I have nothing. What more do you want? I want justice, I said. I turned my attention to Wendy. She pressed herself against the banister, her eyes darting around for an escape. There was nowhere to go. The smug, untouchable queen of the school was just a scared little girl in a crumbling house. You said the law couldn't touch you because you're a minor, I said, walking toward the stairs. You thought juvie was a joke. You thought your dad's money would buy your way out of everything. I stopped at the bottom step. Chloe and Mia gave the cops everything, I told her. The color drained from her face. They told them you planned it. They told them you bought the burner accounts to cyberbully Sarah. That crosses the line from a schoolyard fight to aggravated assault, conspiracy, and felony cyber harassment resulting in a suicide attempt. No, Wendy muttered, shaking her head violently. They're lying. I didn't. The police are on their way here right now. I lied. Actually, they'd be here in an hour, but she didn't need to know that. And because of the media storm that's about to hit, the DA is going to try you as an adult. You're not going to juvie, Wendy. You're going to a state facility. She broke. She slid off the stairs onto her knees, crawling toward me. Please, she wailed, grabbing the legs of my jeans. Her tears were real this time. Snot ran down her face, ruining her makeup. Please, Danny. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I'll do anything. I'll apologize to Sarah on my knees. Just don't let them take me to prison. I'm too young. I looked down at her. I thought about Sarah, bleeding out in her bed. I thought about my dad, a proud man, pushed to the ground by this girl's father. I thought about my mom's gray hair. I reached into my pocket and pulled out the bloody hair clip. I tossed it onto the floor in front of her. Then, I reached into my other pocket and pulled out a pair of heavy craft scissors and a thick black Sharpie. I dropped them next to the clip. They clattered against the marble floor. You want to show me you're sorry? I asked, my voice devoid of any emotion. Wendy looked at the scissors, then up at me, her chest heaving with panic. Pick them up, I commanded. Her trembling hands reached out and grabbed the scissors. Cut it, I said. My hair, she choked out. Every inch of it, I said. Cut it to the scalp. Or I walk out that door and I make sure the prosecutor asks for the maximum sentence. Dad, she screamed, looking at Vance. Dad, do something. Vance just looked away, taking another swig from his bottle. He was broken. He had nothing left to fight with. 10 seconds, Wendy, I said, checking my watch. Please. 9, 8. Sobbing hysterically, Wendy brought the scissors to her long, perfectly styled blonde hair. Snip! A clump of hair fell to the floor. More, I said. Snip! 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 For 5 minutes, the only sound in the ruined mansion was the wet sound of Wendy crying and the metal blades shearing through her hair. She hacked at it blindly, cutting chunks away until her scalp showed in uneven, jagged patches. She looked deranged. She looked broken. She dropped the scissors, her hands covered in loose strands of blonde hair, her chest heaving as she stared at the pile on the floor. Now the Sharpie, I said. She flinched. No, please. Pick it up. She picked up the marker with shaking fingers, popping the cap off. Write the word monster on your forehead, I said. Big letters. So everyone can see what you are. Her hand shook violently as she brought the marker to her skin. Whimpering with every stroke, she wrote the letters backward, using the reflection of a mirrored cabinet near the door. Monster. The black ink stained her forehead, thick and ugly. She dropped the marker. I did it, she sobbed, kneeling in her own hair. I did it. Please tell them to drop the charges. I looked at her. A pathetic, ugly, broken thing. I leaned down close to her ear. I lied. I whispered. I'm pressing charges anyway. Wendy's eyes widened in sheer absolute horror. She opened her mouth to scream, but no sound came out. She just collapsed onto the floor, curling into a ball, weeping into the marble. Sirens wailed in the distance. They were getting closer. I turned around and walked out the front door, stepping out into the crisp afternoon air. Mark and the guys followed me. We got into the car just as 3 police cruisers, lights flashing, tore through the gates of the community and screeched to a halt on the lawn. I watched through the rearview mirror as officers poured out, rushing into the mansion. It's done, Mark said quietly, putting the car in drive. Yeah, I breathed out, leaning my head against the window. The crushing weight on my chest, the fire that had been burning in my throat for days, finally began to cool. It's done. 6 months later. The hospital smelled like antiseptic and cheap coffee, a scent I was intimately familiar with. But today, the air felt a little lighter. I walked into room 302. My mom was sitting by the window, peeling an apple. My dad was asleep in the corner chair, his snoring a low rumble. And on the bed, sitting up and drawing in a sketchbook, was Sarah. She looked up when I walked in. The bandages were gone from her wrists, replaced by thin, pale pink scars. Her hair had grown out into a short, messy bob. She looked thin, but there was color in her cheeks. There was light in her eyes. Brother, she smiled, setting the sketchbook down. Hey, kiddo. I smiled back, walking over and sitting on the edge of the bed. I handed her a bag from her favorite bakery. Got you the chocolate croissants. Mom didn't see a thing. My mom scoffed from the corner, not looking up from her apple. I have ears, Danny. Sarah giggled. It was the best sound in the world. Did you hear the news? I asked her quietly. Sarah nodded, her smile fading slightly, but her eyes remained steady. Mom told me. They got sentenced yesterday. It had been all over the local news. The trial was a media circus. With all the evidence, the confessions, and the digital paper trail, the defense had nothing. The judge made an example out of them. Wendy and the other 2 were sent to a juvenile detention center for 3 years, with mandated psychiatric evaluations. Mr. Vance was slapped with a 5-year federal sentence for bribery, fraud, and tax evasion. He was penniless. Harrison, the principal, was blacklisted from education forever, currently facing civil lawsuits from half the district. Are you okay? I asked her, searching her face. She looked down at her hands, tracing the scar on her left wrist. I still have nightmares sometimes. I wake up and think I'm still on the ground. But then I remember they can't hurt me anymore. They can't hurt anyone anymore. She looked up at me, her big eyes shining with tears. You kept your promise, brother, she whispered. She held up her hand, extending her little finger. I felt a tear slip down my own cheek. I reached out and hooked my pinky finger around hers. Pinky promise, I said, my voice thick with emotion. We can't change our minds. I'll always protect you, Sarah. Always. I know, she smiled, wiping a tear from her cheek. You're my sidekick, right? I laughed, a real, genuine laugh that I hadn't felt in what seemed like a lifetime. Yeah, I said, pulling her into a hug, burying my face in her shoulder as she hugged me back tightly. I'm your sidekick. Outside the hospital window, the sun was beginning to set, painting the sky in shades of gold and warm orange. The storm was over. The monsters were locked away in the dark where they belonged. And for the first time in a long time, as I sat there holding my sister, I knew we were going to be all right.